In the history of darts, no rivalry has created more excitement than the Luke Littler and Luke Humphries rivalry.
It's extraordinary. Luke Humphries, we know it's not all about averages. I'm just giving you some 110 average.
These two powerhouses have squared off a total of 23 times, and fans are split between who the better player is. Well, to settle this matter, we'll have to go back to where it all started, the iconic matches they've had and who's come out on top the most. It all kicked off in explosive fashion on January 3rd, 2024, when Luke Littler and Humphries met for the very first time, and not just anywhere, but in the World Championship final. Littler, a teenager making his debut in the final, shocked the world just by being there. Many thought nerves would get the better of him, but no, he held it together and pushed Humphries hard in the early legs. At one point, it looked like Littler might actually pull off the upset of the century. But Humphries found another gear, breaking away to win 7-4 and claim the world title. That moment changed everything. It crowned Humphries as the new king and introduced Littler as the challenger who wasn't afraid of the big stage. Just weeks later, on January 27th, the two met again at the Dutch Darts Masters quarter-final. And this time Littler wasn't just showing up, he was out for revenge. The match was electric, with both players trading heavy shots. It all came down to a single leg. Littler held his nerve and edged it 6-5. That win was huge, not just because he beat the world champion, but because it proved his performance at the Worlds wasn't a fluke. He showed he could bounce back quickly, even against the man who just denied him glory. Then came the Premier League, and with it the real fireworks. On February 1st, night one of the league saw Littler and Humphries face off in the quarter-final. This time Littler didn't just beat Humphries, he steamrolled him. A 6-2 victory that left fans stunned. Littler looked untouchable, controlling every part of the board, and for the first time people started to wonder if he had figured Humphries out. That theory got stronger a week later on February 8th, during night 2 of the Premier League. In the semi-final, the two clashed again. This time it was tighter, but the result was the same. Littler won 6-5, showing he could grind out wins just as easily as he could dominate. He survived big checkouts from Humphries and landed his own at crucial moments. Littler didn't feel the pressure, and he was starting to build a streak. And Humphries knew it. By the time they met on March 28th in Premier League Night 9, the script was feeling familiar. Once again, Littler edged Humphries 6-5 in the quarter-final. Humphries pushed late in the match, trying to force a swing, but Littler held him off. Even with the pressure building, even with a comeback on the cards, Littler kept his composure and finished the job. That kind of consistency in close games was turning heads. Then came the Players' Championship 7 final on April 8th. This wasn't just a league night, this was a tournament final. The stakes were higher and the tension thicker. But even under the brighter lights, Littler came out on top 6-5. That win mattered. Littler was no longer just winning in leagues, he was now claiming finals. Each victory chipped away at Humphries' dominance and boosted Littler's growing aura. At this point, Littler had now won 4 in a row against the world champ. 3 days later, on April 11th, they were back at it in Premier League Night 11. Once again in a semi-final, and once again, Littler won 6-5. That made it 5 straight wins for Littler since the World Championship loss. Fans and commentators alike began wondering if he had completely cracked the Humphries code. The confidence was oozing out of him, and every match looked like it might tip his way no matter how tight it got. But every run eventually meets resistance, and that came on April 20th in the European Tour 4 final. Humphries, after 5 straight losses to Littler, finally struck back, and he did it the hard way with another 6-5 scoreline. It was a battle, but this time Humphries landed the last punch. That win wasn't just about a trophy, it was about sending a message. Littler's streak could be stopped, and Humphries was still very much in this rivalry. Then came one of the biggest moments of the year, May 23rd, the Premier League playoffs final. Littler and Humphries once again met on a massive stage, but this time Littler didn't leave anything to chance. He took control early, kept the pressure high and powered through with an 11-7 win. He threw like a man on a mission. Centuries, 9 dart legs, I'm talking about the full arsenal. That night gave Littler his first ever Premier League title, and more than that, it gave him something even sweeter: clear bragging rights over Humphries. Still, the story wasn't over. On August 17th, the two found themselves on the other side of the world at the New Zealand Masters semi-final. Different country, same tension. The match was razor close. Littler missed a few key doubles late in the game. Humphries stayed calm and nailed his shots. He won 7-6, and that match proved this rivalry wasn't one-sided. Every match could go either way, and every leg mattered. But just when you thought Humphries might ride that momentum, Littler fired back hard. On September 17th in the Players' Championship 20 quarter-final, Littler dominated Humphries 6-2. No drama, no last leg thriller, just total control from start to finish. Littler didn't give Humphries room to breathe. It was a reminder that while their battles had been close, Littler also had the power to completely overwhelm his opponent. However, on September 29, 2024, Humphries hit back with a 6-3 win. Littler had been riding a wave of hype, but Humphries was having none of it. In that particular match, Humphries didn't just win, he controlled everything. Littler made his usual push, created some chances, but the difference was Humphries' ruthlessness. Every mistake from Littler got punished. It was a reminder that when Humphries logged in, he didn't give much away. That win wasn't flashy, it was clinical, it was cold, and it was personal. Just a few weeks later, on October 20th, 2024, they clashed again, this time in the semi-final of European Tour 13. And once again, Humphries owned the stage. This one ended 7-4, no drama, no last leg deciders. Humphries took the lead early and never gave it up. Littler chased shadows, while Humphries looked like he'd figured out the rhythm to shut him down, over more legs. The pattern was the same. Littler was swinging, but Humphries kept landing heavier shots. Then came the big one, November 24th, 2024 in Minehead, the Players' Championship Finals final. Littler came in swinging hard with some huge checkouts early, showing his usual flair. But Humphries weathered it. He didn't panic, he absorbed the pressure, held his ground, and slowly took control. The final ended 11-7 with Humphries lifting another major over Littler. And that wasn't just a trophy, it was a statement. The rivalry was heating up and Humphries was pulling the scoreboard closer. But just when it looked like Humphries had the upper hand, Littler answered back in style. February 13th, 2025, Night 2 of the Premier League in Glasgow was electric. The crowd was buzzing and the match was tight all the way. It went to a decider and who else but Littler to finish with a 170 checkout. He edged it 6-5, staying unbeaten against Humphries in Premier League head-to-heads. The atmosphere was nuts, and Littler looked like he fed off every cheer. That would also put him back in front in their rivalry. 2 weeks later, February 27th, 2025, in Exeter, Humphries finally cracked the code. He got his first Premier League win over Littler, 6-4. It wasn't just the scoreline, it was the way he did it. Solid, composed, and unshaken. Later, Humphries admitted it wasn't just about playing better, it was about handling the pressure. That night, he did both. But Littler wasn't going away quietly. On March 13th, 2025, Premier League Night 6 in Nottingham saw him back in control. A 6-4 win in the quarter-finals. He came out flying. Humphries tried to rally, but Littler stayed calm, held the lead, and got the job done. That match was all about mental strength. Littler didn't flinch. Then came March 27th, 2025, Newcastle, Night 8. What happened that night turned heads. Littler didn't just beat Humphries, he destroyed him 6-1, and it was brutal. The highlight was a 9-darter. Yeah, he was that good. Humphries couldn't get anything going. Littler ran riot and sent a message loud and clear. It was the most dominant win in their rivalry so far, and honestly it looked like Littler had taken full control of their storyline. But Humphries wasn't done yet. April 10th, 2025 in Manchester, he reminded everyone of his firepower. In the Premier League Night 10 semi-final, he put on a clinic and beat Littler 6-4, and he did it with style. His average was over 118 at one point. He punished every missed dart from Littler and stopped him from winning a fifth night. That wasn't just a win, that was a warning. Then came May 8th, 2025 in Leeds, Night 14, which was another classic. Tensions were rising, both players locked in, and again it went to a decider. Humphries just edged it 6-5, but the pressure was insane. However, he handled it like a pro. That win mattered. It wasn't just about points, it was about shifting momentum, and Littler's perfect Premier League record was starting to look fragile. A week later, on May 15th, 2025, Littler struck back in the quarterfinals of Night 15, 6-3, and it was sharp. He cleaned up everything, barely missed. Humphries was good, but Littler was better. It looked like he had found his groove again and was ready to take control before the finals. And then May 22nd, 2025, night 16, the final week before playoffs. Same result, same energy, 6-3 win for Littler. And this time, he didn't waste any time. Heavy scoring and clinical finishing meant Humphries couldn't catch a break. Littler walked off that stage looking like the favourite going into finals night. But favourites don't always win, as we saw on May 29, 2025 at the Premier League Playoffs final in London. This was the big one, and what a twist! Littler started strong and had the early lead, but Humphries never blinked. He clawed back, leg by leg, stayed patient, stayed focused, then took over. In the end, it was 11-8 to Humphries. He lifted the title, completed the Triple Crown, and put a huge stamp on their rivalry. That was their last meeting, their 23rd to be precise, and it had fireworks, comebacks, pressure, and a lot of brilliance. Humphries now holds the edge heading into June, and even though they're on the same team representing England at the World Cup of Darts, we all know this rivalry is far from over. Because the back and forth between these two isn't just a rivalry anymore, it's a full-blown saga, and if history has shown us anything, it's that neither man stays down for long. So if you've watched every clash shot for shot, and the numbers are clear, Littler has beaten Humphries 13 times. Humphries has beaten Littler 10 times. Now, it's easy to think Littler has the edge. He did early on, but Humphries closed the gap later. He claimed more big wins in majors and in moments when it counted most. That late run, including the Triple Crown decider on May 29th, shows Humphries is peaking when it matters most. While Luke Littler has undoubtedly secured more overall victories head-to-head, the ultimate measure of greatness comes down to clutch performances when it truly matters. The finals and the big stages. In these crucial moments, Luke Humphries constantly delivered, capturing the World Championship, Premier League and Players' Championship titles in head-to-head finals. Considering the weight of major titles and clutch performance, Luke Humphries edges out Luke Littler as the definitive winner of this rivalry, at least for now. But that's our take. Now it's your turn. Did we get this right, or are we missing something critical? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.